Be excellent to each other and party on. We're back to watch a paper legacy match that I played earlier this week against Matthew Clark. He is a graphic artist. You can look at his beautiful art there that he did of Greninja, I believe, the Pokemon. And we are going to play around at Boardwalk Legacy, Boardwalk Games here in Dallas, where we are based. And this was, I think, round 2. And we're going to cover it. It's a full, long, back and forth, interactive game of control on control, Magic the Gathering, and it's going to be very exciting. I'm going to go ahead and show you the deck lists. Also, you'll be able to hear some background audio from us just talking back and forth and things like that, but I think my voice will be a little bit louder than that, so hopefully you can understand what I'm saying while there's audio going on. So I'm going to pause the video, and let's take a look at the deck list. So Matthew is playing something very similar to what top aided the Eternal Weekend in Asia. This is a 5-color Beanstalk list. So Matthew has at his disposal cards like Murktide, he's got Psychic Frog, he's got Tamiyo's, and he has Up the Beanstalk, which is very powerful at breaking parity, and I believe he has Uro. I'm not actually certain how many Murktides he has, but Up the Beanstalk plus Leyline Binding. He's playing 4 Leyline Binding, and then he's playing 4 Plows and at least 2 Prismatic Endings. So he has a ton of removal at his disposal. He also has Lorien Revealed, which he can cast late game to pull ahead. This is not a good matchup for me because I am on a smaller control deck. I'm on Esper Tempo. I'm basically playing the exact same 75 that I played at Eternal Weekend. My threat suite is 4 Psychic Frog, 4 Tamiyo, 3 Murktides, 3 Bowmasters, and a Brazen Borrower. In terms of disruption, I have access to 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Prismatic Endings, 4 Plows, 4 Dazes, 4 Forces, and 4 Wastelands. And in general, a pretty conservative mana base of 20 lands. So, how does the smaller Tempo deck mongoose against the larger Cobra that is the big control deck? You're going to see in this match. We're going to play the full 3 games, and I can even discuss some of the sideboarding strategies, and I just think it's fun to be able to watch this in paper. Also note that I'm going to double speed this because I think it's more entertaining to watch like quickly. So if you're already watching this at double speed, things are going to be 4x speed for you. Let's go. Ludicrous speed. All right, you can see my deck box has like this nice little air tag in it. I like the really big red deck boxes. I like the black Dragon Shield sleeves. And Matthew is on this nice lavender color. Again, I've already talked about his art, but it's beautiful and it's very vibrant. So I always start with like a pile shuffle to count my deck and make sure I've deboarded properly. Also, like people will say, oh, you're not going to randomize anything. Technically, you can perfectly, recreate the configuration of your deck if you de-pile shuffle, right? It's not technically randomizing anything, but let's just face reality. Like if you have a whole bunch of lands clumped up, this is going to reduce the likelihood that you hit clumps of lands. And then I combine that with a whole lot of mass shuffles just to make sure that my deck is sufficiently randomized. So friendly banter between Matthew and I. I'm not sure how loud that's coming through, but hopefully, again, it's not disrupting too much from you hearing what I'm saying. Here is my notebook where I have like this notation system that I use where I not only annotate who takes damage, but like how they take the damage or pay the life for fetches, force of wills, whether they gain from plow, whether they take damage from a Thoughtseize, Bowmaster. I want to be able to very accurately recreate those. We can see my hand is quite good, and I do know he's on Beanstalk, and he knows that I'm on Tempo. So I'm going to start fetching. I wish I had held up my hand so we could see exactly what was in it, but I think it's at least 1 Force of Will, which is going to be clutch against stopping them from... Okay, we can see Matthew's hand here. I'm just going to pause here. We can look at his hand. So he's got, it looks like a Brainstorm. It looks like he's got a Plow, I believe, and he's got a Prismatic Ending, and he's got 4th Aerolingus and a Force. And I think in this circumstance, I would probably just take... So he does have 2 lands. If I take the Brainstorm, then I remove the ability for him to Brainstorm and put stuff back. I'm thought seizing, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. Like I announced thought seize and I fetch the land and then I'm going to put it into play here in a second. So I present my deck to get cut, and I always write down what my opponent's stuff is. I don't make them play revealed. I actually prefer to just keep track for practice, because if you're playing a friendly match and your opponent is playing revealed, so I take the plow, and that means I probably have some sort of thread I want to push through, whether that's a Tamio or, also note that even though I'm taking note here, sometimes I forget to update the actual giant D20s that we use here on the video to make the life totals a little bit easier to understand. That is not me intentionally trying to like cheat or anything like that. Sometimes I just write it down in my notebook and I forget to update the dice. And that might happen for Matthew as well. He also takes meticulous notes as he plays. So, here we go. Matthew Tundra, Brainstorm. So he's main phasing the Brainstorm, and this could be that he has the fear that I have a Bowmasters, because I did take the plow, and Bowmasters is an incredibly powerful card in this matchup. In fact, when I sideboard, I'm going to sideboard in the 4th Bowmaster so I can max out on Bowmasters. I think Bowmasters is probably the best anti-blue. Okay, and I have a Frog. So I know my opponent has a Force of Will. I know they have Prismatic Ending. So if they Prismatic Ending here, which I suspect they're going to do, I'm going to need to be able to daze it, or I just was trying to quickly get through their removal. But, I mean, you can see how strong the Thoughtseize was there, because not only did it take away his removal spell, but it gave me enough information to map out what I want to do for the next few rounds.
Let's see here.
Okay, and he's attempting a Prismatic, and I'm going to force here down to 16, and that resolves, and he gets a 2-for-1, but I've got my Frog. Frog is very powerful because I can attack and connect and draw, and it looks like I'm connecting. So the first connect doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to win, but it is very strong, and I have a second Thoughtseize. Now, let's pause. So really, he's got a lot of land. He's kind of flooded, and I think I even comment that I think he's flooded, and that's unfortunate, because he's drawn 5 lands already, and he's already brainstormed. Part of that may be that he aggressively brainstormed, and had he waited to brainstorm and fetch later, he could have maybe gotten rid of some of these lands, but he definitely doesn't want to see these many lands when I've got a Frog on the table. I think the correct thing to do is just go ahead and take the, because he has so many lands, and I'll eventually have to worry about it, go ahead and take the 4th Aerolingus. And yeah, I think that's what I do, because if he forces something that's at least a 2-for-1.
I would like to take the...
Yeah, and I do take that. Okay, and now I get a Surveil land in play. You may be questioning the sequence of why I did that, but I just wanted to have as much information as possible when I evaluated my Surveil. And here, he rips a natty Uro, which is great. That's a strong card, and it's strong in the matchup. And note that he's using that die to represent that he's actually at 21 life. So even though his hand is mostly lands, he has 2 unknown now. Or yeah, he has 1 unknown card. I'm going to get my Tamio out, and now Tamio and Frog are a nice bonus. I've already drawn a card, which means I'm going to be able to effectively immediately flip Tamio here, which is good because I can start, plussing and minusing. A lot of times I keep her around and I'll just daze, but I didn't want to just chill.
I'm going to fetch the 19. I'm going to go grab a head maze here.
So he's fetching to Surveil end step. You'll note that his mana base is all non-basics. That may come up later in the match. I can't remember exactly what happened. Like, this happened at this point 5 days ago. Again, shout out to Matthew from Boardwalk Legacy for sharing this video with me. This was on their stream, and I'm going to link to their stream in the video description if you want to check out their channel and watch some of these at your own pace. There's 3 rounds every Thursday. All right, he is bringing back Uro, and I don't seem particularly concerned for my body language. I think I've probably got a Prismatic Ending in my hand.
22 again? 22, yeah. 22.
Or a plow.
Okay.
And usually if I want to plow, I just plow immediately before they draw, just to reduce the likelihood of them having an answer. So yeah, just the sequencing the land drops. We're just discussing that. I wanted to make sure he wasn't making an extra land drop, but we're still resolving the Uro, is basically what he said. So, okay. So now I'm going to draw. I feel extremely favored. Okay, here's a note. I always minus Tamio when I'm up against a Prismatic Ending deck. I will never keep plussing her because I don't genuinely think that she's likely to survive, especially because my opponent also, in addition to at least 2 prismatic endings, has 4 Leyline Bindings in their deck. And I always want to cash in my Tamio for value. I'll probably buy back a Force.
Sorry, I'm thinking. You're good. The one I'm going to get back. Sure.
So I get back Thoughtseize instead. And my opponent has a Beanstalk, which I'm able to take. So I'm very grateful that I didn't have to get the Thoughtseize. Or had I gotten back Force, I would have needed to go down a card.
And I'm going to prismatic end Uro. Sure. Pay 3.
Yeah, and I am able to successfully prismatic end Uro. So
Attack.
very happy.
21.
Did you re-roll the cut?
Yes, it was.
Draw trigger.
And I'm feeling incredibly favored here, having drawn several cards off of Frog.
Sanctuary. Sure.
But
But you force out
it's not over till it's over, and my opponent has lots of extremely swingy cards, and we're entering the late game where my opponent has a lot of additional things they can do. Here they are going to get back,
and then,
what are they getting back? 4th. That's scary. But I think I do have a, my opponent makes a big mistake. I actually had a Force and Daze in my hand, but because they tapped out before they played their land,
playing
I was able to daze it. So that was probably the punt that cost them the game. Had I had to Force and pitch Daze, that would have been a pretty big blow because they would still have a card in their hand. But I'm able to just daze instead, which is huge.
I'm going to start by just surveilling. Sure.
So I did daze back the Surveillium with the intention of getting a second Surveil just to get a little more action. I'm not cramped on mana here. I'm more cramped on card selection, just making sure I have good cards. I'm still drawing every turn. Okay, and this is the Terminus. And you can see that I'm just going to let it happen, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, this Frog has already replaced itself several times over. And I want to make sure that I can force like another
2-5.
big Haymaker spell that they may have.
Turn. Yep. I'll pass.
No, certainly.
And I still have Tommy on the table. This Beanstalk is going to get, I think I have to Prismatic Ending. I might tap out to force it. What am I doing here?
I'm going to attempt with a Beanstalk on the stack. Sure.
Oh, Bowmasters.
Oh, my.
Okay, and the reason I'm doing this now is because I want the Bowmaster ping, and I don't want them to be able to force, because they do have force mana up, and so that's going to resolve. They're going to draw, and then I get the Bowmaster ping. But they are actually going to go, and they're going to get the force. They're going to get the mana they need to hardcast force, but they're not going to get the additional draw trigger here. And so I'm going to force back. So Beanstalk is going to enter. They're going to draw, but I'm immediately going to get an army here. And even though they're at 18 life from Irwing twice, I do have a clock now.
Go ahead. Untap. Upkeep. Draw.
You'll note, if you can hear the audio clearly, that I always announce the phase, like untap, upkeep, draw, main one. I think it's very important to do that just to, when you're playing in paper, to make sure that you've sufficiently communicated what's going on so your opponent doesn't have an opportunity to say, oh, before you do that, like, no, I already went through those phases and you should have interrupted me back then. So it helps me keep track in my own mind, and it's also a nice defensive thing because I can say with perfect candor and integrity that, no, I did announce that I was going through those phases and you didn't do anything during those phases. So, okay, so here we're brainstorming, and at this point, Tamio, I think, has gotten me 2 cards. I'm going to go ahead and take up. They are going to block.
You have 2 cards in hand? Yes. Tap 3, flash and endurance.
Oh, they're going to flash an endurance.
I'll get into-
Luckily, I have the hardcast force here. So this game has gone on so long that I think like 3 hardcast forces have been cast, which is pretty wild. But I'm able to protect my Bowmaster here.
Go ahead.
And, I needed to tap the mana. I think, yeah, I remembered it. Okay, good. Okay, so 1 card in hand for each of us, but I've got the active Tamio, and my opponent is under the Bowmaster. I'm at 9 life, so I am within death range if they do have another 4th Aerolingus.
Triggers.
Yep.
Or, yes.
Sorry,
or-
resolves.
they resolves.
All right, trigger.
Yes.
Draw. I'm not putting any
Bowmaster.
play, but I'll gain 3 life.
So I get a Bowmaster ping, and Bowmaster can, over time, stare down an arrow and keep them from coming back. They do have the mana to bring Arrow back here. It looks like they've got green, green, blue, blue. They may do that. They can also flip their Tamio in doing so. Yep, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to exile a bunch of stuff. I think I have like a plow in hand or something. Oh, I have a Daze again. Holy cow, that's so powerful. So I prevent Tamio from flipping, and I'm also able to stop them from gaining life, and their graveyard is fairly barren now. I don't think they're going to be able to bring that back.
Just 4.
Okay. I'm going to minus. Sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and minus again, and I think it makes sense to get PE and just remove that, and now I can get my damage in, and I'm feeling pretty favored.
I'll leave that there.
Also, I apologize, like I whacked the microphone. I'm so excited watching this.
1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna leave a ponder in my graveyard, I guess. Sure. And then I'm gonna make it 8/8.
Yep, sounds
All right, and I dropped the 8/8 Merc,
good. Step up, keep, draw.
so feeling extremely favored. They need a lot of answers here.
Well, you have to.
They do have the ability. Okay, there's the plow, and that's fine. Again, like it's scary to have the game go on this long because
Plus,
they can just cast Lorien Reveal. They can do a lot of things like game, Beanstalk. But I'm getting them low enough in life that I don't have to worry too much about them drawing cards. They have to answer the Bowmaster before they can do anything really scary. They may have enough cards to bring back Uro now.
I'm gonna cycle Warning Reveal. Sure.
They're cycling Lorien Revealed. Probably going to get a Surveillant. I can't tell from the glare, but that looks like, yeah, that's just a Tundra. So they may have gone through, they may only have like one Surveil. Okay, and here comes Uro, and Uro is going to resolve here, but I do get a Bowmaster ping. They gain life. They get to draw a card. I'm tapping my hands. I'm wondering what, oh, I'm going to brainstorm a response. I think I'm going to see if I can find, because I do have the possibility of a hard cast force here. So I keep one card.
Go 8.
The other thing is I could have found like a second Bowmaster, and that would be really strong here. So it's worth noting that now, if they attack in with Uro, I'm going to get a Bowmaster ping. Okay, so now they're going to end the army, I think.
One card in hand.
that's correct.
I'm gonna do just the Bowmaster.
Oh, they're going for the Bowmaster itself.
Go ahead.
So that's bad news. I need to remove this Uro. So you can see, even though I'm like incredibly advantaged, like drawing so many cards, gotten so many cards back from Tomio, they have tons of life now. 13. I'm going to start chipping away. They're back down to 9. I'm going to plus Tomio, and really all I've got, I don't know what's in my hand, but that's, let's see what they have. There are so many cards they can draw now that can just bury me. So thankfully there's no Beanstalk in play. My philosophy in beating Beanstalk is you always stop the Beanstalk no matter what. Yes, it's worth it to end Beanstalk even late. Let me just see what I grabbed there. I grabbed Brainstorm. Okay.
I'll force it.
And I am gonna, they're gonna force my Brainstorm, Hardcast Force. So we're just trading high mana value spells. Tomio's back. I'm gonna untap. I have 2 turns before I can buy something back with Tomio. So she's going up to 4. I have a plow. Okay, my opponent draws, passes. I draw, and now Tomio's going back down to 1. I think I get another Brainstorm here, just to potentially shuffle away some bad cards. I need to find like another Bowmasters or another Murktide that I can use to potentially close the game. Bowmasters is way better than Murktide. Bowmasters is the best draw in my deck, basically. I'm going ahead and shuffling. I've got practically every land in my deck on the table now. By the way, if you're looking at my FBB dual lands, I did buy a lot of those before the price spikes. I bought a lot of them in 2011, but I did have to pay top dollar for some of the underground seas. So this is an expensive hobby, and having black border duels is not free. But those are FEB, those are not beta. I do know people who have beta and even alpha duels, and it's incredibly impressive, but you know, let that money, I'd rather give that money to charity or do something like that, right, than carry around like $100,000 in my deck box. Okay, so
I will attack for 2.
yeah, cool. So we're swinging in, and yeah, with the Bowmasters in play, I think we're heavily favored here.
Take up to 5. I'm gonna attack. 2. 4.
All right, they're at 4, and I think that's game. Like, I'm trying to think of what they can do here.
It's kind of over if I don't do it. So brainstorm.
They're brainstorming into death, basically.
3. Those 2 back.
They're going to need like a Supreme Verdict or another Terminus or something like that here. And even then, I've still got Tomio going. Yep, they got it. That was a nearly 30-minute game. Just serious back and forth. Now we're going to go to game 2. I'll skip the sideboarding and the banter. And so I board. I'll talk a little bit about how I board and how they are likely boarding. So I take out all my plows. I just don't think plow is that good. We can hit everything with prismatic ending instead, and I board in plows. Or I board in endings, and then I board in hydroblasts because I expect them to board some number of pyroblasts. So I think I board like all 3, maybe just 2. I can't remember if I boarded in 2 or 3. I board out my basic island, and I board in my basic plains because I expect them to have carpet and I want to have at least one non-island in my deck to get a little bit of mana out. I don't need a lot of mana to function as a deck. Like, I certainly didn't need to get all that mana out, but I just kept fetching and shuffling and stuff. And in the process of doing that, I amassed a lot of land because I just wanted to get good brainstorms and I wanted to get my surveillance. So even when your deck is really low curve like mine, you do sometimes amass a lot of land that you'd rather really just shuffle back with a brainstorm or something. But it's not the worst to be able to like hard cast Force of Will later in the game, and I did get to do that a few times. But they're definitely like, it's very rare that I would get that many lands out on the table. I don't think that ever happened at Eternal Weekend. Actually, it may have happened like once because I did face Beanstalk at Eternal Weekend, and that matchup might have gone so long. I think there was a game in that matchup that was like 40 minutes long too. So we're going to reset the life totals, and we're going to go to...
just cut when you get a sec, and I'm assuming you're on the play.
Yeah, so now Matthew's going to be on the play, and I'm going to take a look at my opening 7. And what I'm looking for, Force of Will, ideally, to stop Beanstalk. Like, the number one thing is stop Beanstalk. I wish I'd turned my hand up a little more. I think I saw a glint of a Force of Will in there. You'll note, like, there are little body language things, like, do people put their hands down? Are they actively shuffling through their cards that might indicate that they have a force? Like, the fact that I'm looking at my hand right now indicates that I do have action. But sometimes I'll set my hand down. I'll just fold it and set it down and not do anything to kind of, like, bait my opponent into going for it when they shouldn't. But that doesn't work against a player like Matthew because he's just going to... Yeah, and that resolves, sadly. There's nothing I can do about it. So I guess I didn't have a force. But I do have... what do I do here? Prismatic Ending? I go ahead and Tamio, and this is a pretty moribund Tamio because they're nearly to Prismatic Ending mana. They could just go get... Okay, their own Tamio, whom they can flip pretty easily if they...
Don't worry, it's not the hive number. It makes you feel better.
Okay. There's the Brainstorm. That's going to flip Tamio, and we are... really unfavored from here. I would say we have like maybe a 10% chance to win, even this early in the game at this point, with the flip Tamio and the Beanstalk online. So I do create a clue here, and I think, yeah, they actually force here, and they get to draw. I'm thinking about responding to the force on the stack.
Three, yes.
They have 3 cards in the hand, but they're about to draw a card. They pitch Ponder.
Yes. Got you, 19?
Yeah.
So I fetch, and I get a Tundra here. Or actually, an Underground Sea. And I'm going to Bowmaster with the Beanstalk trigger on the stack just to try to get a little bit of pressure. Again, this is kind of a desperate gambit.
And then I'll take 2 off of your... 16.
But it's really the best I can do is hope that they don't have a sweeper. And you can see I'm pretty tired here. Like, I actually put the token on the Bowmaster instead of the Orc Army. I think I'd been awake, like I hadn't slept well for like 3 consecutive days, just working like 50 or 60 hours a week. And I think it took its toll in this particular game. But don't worry, I get with it, and we like discover the error there.
Oh, just put it back.
Oh, yeah, I'm just tired. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was like, something's not right.
Yeah, please carry on.
Okay, and there's my Orc Army token. Okay.
Let's see here.
So I do have a lot going on my side of the board. I've got my most powerful card out, but they have plenty of ways of removing. It's like 10, 12 ways in their deck of removing my Bowmasters. So I'm not confident it's going to stick around. They also have Tamio to buy back action, which technically all the cards in their graveyard that they can buy back are okay. Now they can buy this back and they can go for a second card if they want. If they want to kill my Tamio.
I'll take up Samuel. Okay.
But they're opting to tick up, which I think might be a mistake because I do have Prismatic Ending in my deck.
I'm going to attempt to declare attack. And she only loses 1 loyalty.
Yes.
So she loses 1 loyalty from my attack. I'm going to attempt to Brainstorm again, and this will flip my Tamio.
1, 2.
But my opponent probably would have removed it last turn if they had the option to do so, because I believe I was tapped out.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry.
And I actually I think I declared the Tamio trigger, but I didn't actually flip her before I started doing something else. So it's just bad sequencing on my part and me being tired.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think I consider grabbing the planes, but then I realize, oh, Blue to Delta can't get planes. The reason I would do that again is because of Carpet of Flowers. So I get Frog out, but again, like I'm super vulnerable to sweepers here. And they can use Tamio to buy back Prismatic Ending, and they can wipe my creatures. Now they have Leyline Binding online with that, and they can just 1-mana Leyline Binding stuff. I don't have a way to deal with that. Uro's fine. That is not a huge concern of mine. But I think I do scoop just because they have so much forward momentum. And also, I think I said here that like because the time is low, I didn't want to spend like the last 15 minutes of the round just playing defensively, trying to get to rounds and get to turns. A lot of control players, what they'll do, and this is something you can do technically, is if you win game 1, you can just slow roll game 2, and like basically if your opponent's deck is really slow, they may not be able to get a win, and then the ending score is you won 1 and they won 0, so you win even though you went to time. That used to happen all the time in the Miracle days. Like you could just spin your top all day long, and it was a really frustrating way to lose, and I refused to play like that. So I was like, yeah, let's just go to the next game. Like I think I was probably like maybe like 10% to win that. So we're playing very fast here. If you notice mistakes and things like that, note that we do not want to go to time, and we do have the rest of the players kind of waiting on us at this point. Because, when you only have 16 players, that's only 8 matches in progress, and it's less likely that one of those is going to go to time. Especially because there are like maybe 3 or 4 control mages at our weekly, and then I'd say like a good mix of tempo players, a lot of painter players, and some combo players. And I'll go ahead and pause here and save you some suspense. I'm going to talk about what the other rounds were that night. So first, I'm just going to pull up the general archetypes here. I'm not going to pull up the actual decks, but I faced Blue-Black Reanimator, and I faced Nadu. Like almost exactly these lists. Okay, so the first match of the night was against Jet, who's really good, and his name is Jet, J-E-T-T. He's a really chill dude, and he likes to play Alern. He loves green, black, and blue. He loves that color combo, but he was actually playing Nadu. Is there a way to get a visual? Switch to visual. Okay, cool. Yeah, so he was playing Nadu, and this is a pretty tough matchup for us. It's an extremely robust deck, and the way they win is they just get Nadu and they get Nomad Encore, and they just combo. But behind that, they're actually a really robust kind of control-y deck. They are playing 4 plows, they're playing 2 endings. They have 4 forces, they have Teferis, and I was able to, if I can remember the exact sequence, I think the first game I got like a pretty giant Murktide and just protected the queen, and I was able to use Bowman. Oh, and the second game they won, and it was just a really quick like turn 3 Nadu with like Delighted Halfling. I couldn't get rid of everything. And the third game, I was able to Bowmaster their Brainstorm, and I had like Daze and Force, and I could protect it. And then I just did so much damage that I was able to kind of tempo them out with Bowmaster. Then the other match of the night was against Blue-Black Reanimator, and I will tell you, this is going to be a very quick explanation of what happened. But basically, they're playing almost exactly this 75 with the Archon and the Atraxa and the good mix of 4 Wastelands, I think 4 Dazes, yeah. So what I did here this was against Dayton, who's a very strong player, and he always plays blue-black archetypes. He plays ninjas, he plays tempo, and he plays recently he's been playing Reanimator since it's so strong. So what I was able to do was just plow every threat, and every time he tried to get something in his graveyard, I'd forced every Entomb, and I plowed every frog. He was able to, I think at one point, he was able to kill one of my frogs, and then I Murktide it. I did like a really tiny Murktide, but I just wanted to get the frog out of my graveyard. And he showed me his hand at the end of game 2, and it was like 3 reanimation effects, and I just never gave him anything to reanimate, and I felt really good about that. I didn't even ever get Grafdigger's Cage in. I just won through sheer removal and counter magic. So those are the other 2 matches. So I went 3-0 this night. Well, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling this game, but yeah, you'll see what happens here. So I start out on the play, and I go ahead and flip Tamio. Pretty aggro.
I'll enter your cameo.
She's ended.
I'll pass you.
Card advantage, I'll take it.
Okay. So I don't aggro. Let me take a look at this.
2, 'cause we're in step
And I
5.
even say out loud, "Oh, card advantage, I'll take it." So what I did here was I played out Tamio,
She flips. She stays at 2.
and then I flipped her, and they used the plow. I flipped her when they used the plow, and then they just untapped and prismatic ended. So they were able to take her out, but they had to use 2 cards to do it. So
Card advantage, I'll take it.
I said, "Card advantage, I'll take it."
Draw.
Now I go to my turn, untap.
I have turn.
So far, there's
Going to.
I think this is one of Wasteland's first real appearances in the match. I Thoughtseize first. I start to reflexively Wasteland, but then I'm like, no, I should Thoughtseize. And this, I was so afraid that I was going to have to like force a Veil of Summer. But no, they're just, they didn't want to lose their land. Since I played at the Wasteland, they knew that they needed to move quickly with the Lorien revealed. So that's what they're doing. They're probably going to go get maybe an island or maybe just another Tundra or something. I will go after the green source here, probably. Going after the white source is reasonable, but like I probably would have gone after the white source just because that's the color of removal. And the green is really just there for the Beanstalk and the Uro. But since they got the extra Tundra, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and waste the...
And then the other cards are
Trop and Tundra.
Trop and Tundra.
Yeah, so they have Trop, Tundra, and they have a Leyline Binding in their hand.
I'm going to hit the... I'll hit the Tundra. Sure.
And I do opt to hit the Tundra
Take 2, gotcha.
because I see the second green source.
Alright, go ahead and-
That could go either way. Like thinking about it, like if you hit both of their green, or you hit one of their green sources, then they can no longer bring a Uro easily. But I just want to like maximize the likelihood that I draw another Wasteland and I'm able to hit their other
And
Tundra.
Pass. Second. Oh, pretending. Yeah.
So I end Tamio. I don't wait around because it is going to accumulate clues.
Sure.
They drew Brainstorm for turn, so that was very lucky because if they would have been able to do it, and I'm able to Bowmaster the Brainstorm, and this is really good.
Yeah, one time. Yeah, because I learned go together. So I'll go to, I'll take 4, yeah, so I'll get to me. Sorry, I need to put 2 cards back.
Yeah, no problem.
That.
All right, they are figuring out their Brainstorm. We can see that they have a lot of lands in hand,
Okay. Draw. Second 5.
Yeah, that's 10.
and we're running really low on time, so I'm just trying to be as aggro as possible here. Okay, Murktide comes out.
4.
I make it not full size, I think, because I suspect they have. So I
I'll force you.
no, I do make it full size,
Pitch out.
and they go ahead and force it, and I'm like, cool, whatever. It's a 2-for-1, right? I've hemmed them basically.
Good.
Untap. Upkeep.
Okay, and at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Oh, especially drawing that second. Now I can hit that Tundra.
Okay, I'm gonna
I go ahead and hit it.
take
They
Yep.
float,
I will attack you for 5.
and I attack, and they don't have the plow.
I'll pass.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, man, I didn't
Yeah,
expect
and we
all
get
that.
it.
I was like really curious.
So
I was gonna draw frog
it was a combination
Yeah,
of.
I didn't get it. I was like, oh, fuck. So it's kinda
I
bad.
think I don't think I cast Daze that game, but it was like the double Wasteland on their white sources was really important to locking them down. We could see Matthew's sideboard. He had a Wrath of the Skies. He had what is that green card? I think it's a Veil. And then he had 2 plows or 3 pyros and 2 carpets. And what I had boarded in was I think 2 hydros, and we're just talking about our sideboard discussions in the background. I also brought in a 4th Bowmaster and the extra prismatic endings. I think those were the substitutions I made.
I'll play the numbers and then it'll try to make states with draw.
But you can look, so he took out all his forces basically. And he actually took out Beanstalks, which I think, I argue that like I wouldn't take out Beanstalks here, but I think he is really afraid of the constriction that Orcish Bowmasters does against his deck when I have 4 of them. Orcish Bowmasters, of course, the standout card of the matchup. That Daze that stopped the 4th Air Lingus was very lucky for me. Game 1 could have gone either way, but I feel very proud to have beaten a skilled pilot like Matthew when the matchup is so unfavorable. Like, I genuinely think that, one of Control's best matchups is like a tempo deck, right? And we were able to best Matthew here with our tempo deck. So, yeah, you can see me deboarding here. I don't really have anything else to add. This was a really fun match. Again, going to encourage you to click the link in the description and check out the Boardwalk Legacy channel and also just consider watching them on stream, commenting on stream. Until next time, be excellent to each other and party on.